Issues currently discussed widely among parents about education is HOT, or higher order thinking. This is the result of the implementation of school-based assessment and higher order thinking in the blueprint, and the ideas were implemented in schools. And unfortunately, most parents, in fact, are not aware of what is going on in school, how their children's learning being affected by the new system of education. Just briefly, to say brief, to talk briefly about our education system. Uh, and the blueprint suggests that we should go into developing higher order thinking among our learners. In other words, we want our learners, our children, to be creative, and critical of what they are learning. See, so when you talk about higher order thinking, it involves the teaching methodology, the methods of teaching, which will help students, our children in school, to become critical and creative thinkers, right? But of course, this is quite a difficult things to do, and because teachers need to be trained in the way they should teach our children. So the effort by the Ministry of Education to change the questions, to alter the questions, so that they can be focused on questions which needs or demands higher order thinking. But the methodology of teaching is still at the traditional stage, where it is still rote learning. So the role of parent is important here. The role of parents here is to help the school authority or help our children to become critical and creative thinkers. So before I go into explaining what is HOT, I would try to explain basic things about thinking. Basically, thinking is about doing observation and conclusion. Okay? So there is basic things about observation. Suppose I'll give you one example. Yeah? I'll give you one example. I'll be giving you one diagram, and parents might try to solve this problem. Try to identify as many triangles as possible in this diagram. Why don't we try? What do you think of this problem? Very simple. Well, it needs skillful observation. You can always invite your children to come and have a look at the diagram and ask them to find the number of triangles, the total number of triangles found in this diagram. To be able to solve this problem, perhaps you can pause the diagram, pause the video, and let them try. Okay. After trying and they couldn't get if they can't get the solution for this, then what you can do is to guide them. First, guide them to classify the triangles. So asking them what are the types of triangle that they can find from this diagram in terms of size. Yes, of course, one is small triangles. These are all small triangles of equal size. Then there is another type of triangle, which is big triangle. We have two big triangles here. Then comes another triangle, which is quite implicit. This is a problem of our student in mathematics, our children in mathematics, is to find the implicit information or the implicit data that is hidden. This is another one. They can figure out that. then they are able to find implicit information, but they have to find more. This is another one, and this is another one, and I think they can find more. Okay, all right, and then get them to get the total number of triangles. So in this case, the skills needed in observation here is called classification. You need to be skillful in classifying data. Your children need to be skillful in classifying data. So more exercise of this kind will be given in the actual programs to get your children to do more exercise of this. This is important, and in order to develop the kind of thinking called critical thinking. Yes, what do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Have you tried? How many triangles are there? You are supposed to find as many triangles as possible. The question says find as many triangles as possible in the diagram given just now. So this is not an easy task for those who are not used to thinking. All right, let's see. This is to show one example of thinking. What is happening in the mind of a student who tried to solve these problems. Okay, first he needs to observe the diagram. From the observation, he needs to get as much data as possible. Here in this case, as many triangles as possible. Well, so there is observation. But in the process of observation, if he wants to find the triangles, he needs to do classification. He needs to classify. So classification is an activity regarded as thinking too, part of thinking. So he should be able to classify. First, he may observe how he may identify the smallest triangles. Then he might be able to identify big triangles. And of course, medium-sized triangles. So if you can identify those three types of triangles, then he is able to do classification of data. From there, he makes a conclusion as to how many triangles are there in that particular diagram. You see? So, we'll see how many triangles in the diagrams in the seminar, and I'm sure some parents have already found the number of triangles found in the diagrams, but of course it is through observation. Right, so there is basic activities in thinking. Trying to find as much information as possible, or to trying to find as much data as possible. What is data? Data is not just about statistics. Data can be numbers, can be diagrams, can be tables. So here we are talking about data in the form of triangles. How many triangles can be found from that particular diagrams. So, okay. Now, if your children find difficulties in identifying the number of triangles there, or identifying the type of triangle there, that reflect his weakness in thinking, poor thinking, right? And this is very important. Such training, there are more activities be given in the actual program when you join the programs later, right? Now, what happens if your children couldn't solve this problem? He will find problems in solving mathematics problems of that kind, where skillful observation is needed. For example, let us see these problems. The problems here is to find the fraction of shaded parts. What is the fraction of the shaded part in the diagram? Okay. Why didn't the parent try this? And this is very simple as compared to the one I gave. This is very simple, just as an exercise. So we can get the answer within 1 minute. But just to show that for our children, for them it might be difficult unless they have the skill of observation. Okay? The question here is to find the fraction of the shaded part of the diagram. Now again, these questions requires your child to identify or look for the implicit information. Well, this is another good exercise. But if she fails to answer the first question that I gave, it is most probably they can't answer the question here. Okay, I'll leave it to you to train your child how to go about this kind of problems. We'll give more problems in the actual programs. Okay, that is about thinking, one type of thinking, where student needs to observe to get as much information as possible. Right, there is another type of thinking where students need to be creative to solve the problems. For example, let's take a standard 1 questions, which I'm sure many of our children will find difficulties in solving this problem initially unless they have been trained how to think creatively. Okay, suppose you go back home and tell your children, or if your children is here, get your children to sit down beside you and ask him or her to solve this problem. What plus what equals 11? And ask her or ask them to solve the problem in as many ways as possible. Right? Try. You have your kids around beside you. Let them try. What do you think? Okay, these are some more examples of questions that needs a different kind of thinking that was discussed earlier. These are questions that needs your child to find. For example, here the first question: what plus what equals 11? You might be 10 plus 1, maybe 3 plus 8. So many ways of getting answers. So let your child spend some time to work on this problem. This one is another one. And this is, I think, is suitable for year 1. This year, I think it's year 2 or year 3. And you see, these are questions that requires what is called creative thinking. So ability to think in different ways. So, but you see this question. This is a closed question, meaning that there's only one answer. Here is an open question where there are so many answers. So is encouraged to. I would encourage you get more of this question every day. Let them solve. Well, this question too is also very important, but don't spend all the way giving exercises on this type of question alone. This one is to develop skills. So you don't have to spend so much money to go and learn mental arithmetic because it's simply a waste of time. You can train yourself. This type of question you can train and at home, and involve subtraction, addition, division, multiplication. But of course, it's not enough to develop higher order thinking. So that's why we need this type of question as well, right? So there's also another type of question which also demands a what we call higher order thinking, like this in, like for example, you have 72 minus what equals to say 29, for example, okay, or what minus 75 equals to 47, for example. Okay, these questions need a very different kind of thinking. Not need a different kind of thinking from this question. See? This one is about creative thinking, but this one is not too much of creative thinking. Of course, there is some elements of creative thinking, but this is what I call using analogic reasoning. Analogic reasoning. But we will discuss this. So I will explain to you how do you go about guiding your children in this kind of mathematics. Many parents solve or help their children to solve this kind of mathematics through rote learning. You cannot say, oh, this is minus, you bring here become plus, you bring here plus become minus. No, that is not the way to teach this kind of problems. Likewise here, some parents might say, oh, this is minus, bring to the right become plus, plus become minus. So this is not educating your child in mathematics. This is teaching your child through rote learning, which is bad for them. Okay, we'll discuss more. And of course, I would like you, again, you may have give more chance for your children to solve more problems. But I will advise, I will explain this more in the actual programs. This is what is called using a type of mathematical thinking called analogic reasoning. Well, what do you think? It's not easy, for them to solve this problem. Well, of course, to train them to be creative in their thinking, there is several methods, there are several ways, several exercises, which we learn in our program. When you attend the full program, I'll show you how do you develop creative thinking among children. So far we have learned two types of thinking. One is called critical thinking, where you try to understand a problem. For example, when a student or when your child try to get as much data or information, or try to understand a problem, that is called critical thinking. And the one which needs your child to solve the problem in many ways is called creative thinking. So education system should be focusing on developing critical and creative thinking among children. That is the idea of HEART, actually. So these are examples of HEART. So higher order thinking needs students to be skillful in their thinking, meaning that they should be taught how to be creative, how to be critical, meaning that they can see details. For example, in the diagram that I gave you on finding the number of triangles, that needs detail and detailed observation, detailed examination of the data. See, that later on I'll show you. It will lead to what is called analysis, and analysis is one important component in critical thinking. Right. I'll give you one more example just to show what is higher order thinking in mathematics. All right. Suppose the diagram be given, the questions be displayed. Suppose there's a question. This might be the problem that fit into standard 5 or standard 4 work. Suppose a question says 2/5 of a journey is 600 kilometers. What is the distance of the whole journey? I repeat, 2/5 of a journey is 600 kilometers. What is the distance of the whole journey? Well, this is a different kind of questions, a different kind of approach, and a slightly more advanced thinking as compared to the previous one. Right. For most parents, or some teachers, when faced with this kind of problem, they will try to tell their students, or a parent might tell their children to just take 600 and then you invert the fraction, like for example 2/5 become 5/2, and you get the answer, right? Of course the answer is right, but you are turning your children's mind upside down. You know why? Because there is not educating your children in mathematics. See, I come back to the topics of what is teaching and educating. You are just teaching your children in mathematics. You teach them how to get answers, but you don't teach them the process, the mathematical processes involved. The reasoning, that's called the process. The process means the reasoning behind the solution of the problem. So you're not training your kids to think. If you do that, you are assuming that your kid is not a human being. You're assuming that your kid is a robot, a biological robot. We are not teaching robots. We are teaching human beings. Well, in history, when people talk about teaching, they tested with animals. They gave some bananas to monkeys, and the monkeys tried to climb up to a certain level, and they achieved that goal to get the monkeys to jump to a certain level. That is teaching monkeys through rote learning, because monkeys cannot think, but human beings can think. They have the minds, they have the brain to think. So we have to optimize the potential of human beings. And of course, our children are human beings like ourselves. So we have to have a different approach to teach human beings. Right. I'll be explaining some basic things about how to solve this problem. And this is one example, and there are a lot of examples to be given so that parents will understand better. Okay, this is another type of questions that is quite different from the rest, in the sense that one, because this is in the form of a sentence or word problems. See, 2/5 of a journey is 600 kilometers. What is the distance of the whole journey? This is one example of question which needs the ability to think critically. First, when you want your child to learn how to solve this problem, you need to teach them how to represent this formula. These problems. Ability to represent problem in the form of a straight line in a mind map is very important. Okay, I'm not going to explain more in detail, but I'm just giving you some hints on how to help your child to solve this problem. One way of helping them or your child to solve this problem is to let them draw a diagram. And before that, you ask him or her what is the meaning of 2/5. If they couldn't explain, then you tell them that 2/5 means 2 parts of 5 parts. Here, in the context of this question, 2/5 means 2 parts of a journey is out of 5 parts. So, instruct them to draw a diagram, a straight line. Say, for example, this diagram. Straight line. I might not be so straight here in this case. 1, 2, and divide these diagrams, straight line into 5 parts, 5 equal parts. Then ask her or him to represent 2 parts. So using arrows. All this has to be done by your child. Okay. Right. Next, ask your child where to put the 600 kilometers. But before that, you emphasize on the question, read the question, ask him or her to read the question again. 2/5 of a journey is 600 kilometers. Where to put the 600? A question should be posed, where to put the 600 kilometers? Is it here? Is it under 2/5? So if they put here 600, then you can ask her or him, why should you put 600 here? And if your child put 600 here, also you insist on the explanation why. This is to develop reasoning skills. Okay, so of course, if some of them might want or might choose to put here 600 kilometers, definitely you can put more question by insisting on the rationale of putting 600 here, because here is 3 parts, whereas the question says 2/5. Okay, let's say they decide to put 600 kilometers here. Okay, now this is 2 parts of the whole journey, is 600 kilometers. So how would you guide your child to solve this problem? Of course, one way is to, if they know 2 parts, then you can ask them what is 1 part of the journey. Then you open up their mind to see the solution. From 1 part, they can see the whole part, which is 5 parts. So this is how you develop thinking skills. What kind of thinking skills you develop through this problem? This is what is called critical thinking, because when you train them to draw a diagram and then put all data here, and you keep on questioning them so that they can understand better the problem situation, then it's called analysis. Analysis is an important component of critical thinking. You are training your child to analyze problems. So besides critical thinking, there is another form of creative thinking which you can develop from this program, which will be explained in the actual diagram, program. Okay, so please register yourself as quickly as possible so that you can have more ideas, because there are a lot more things to discuss, to know more. It's just part of the whole diagram. You need to know how to assess your children's ability in mathematics. You need to know more about the various other types of word problem, and also numerical problems, and of course problems in the form of diagrams, which we need to discuss more. And in fact, how do you develop communication skills? What type of questions to ask your children, or to enhance mathematical thinking or higher order thinking. And then how do you develop interest in mathematics through activities related to family matters, like inviting them to do budgeting, monthly budgeting, so that they can get involved in NLCs, they got involved in evaluating or evaluation and reflecting. And when they bring you, when you bring them out, you may also ask questions and then explain some mathematical phenomena that will help them to open up their mind to see mathematics not just about passing exams, but also to develop a cultural thinking through mathematics. I hope all parents will have a better idea of what is thinking or what is higher order thinking. What had been discussed is about higher order thinking. What is the opposite of higher order thinking? The opposite of higher order thinking, or HOT, is lower order thinking. So for those children who have acquired higher order thinking, they can do observation, they can get as much data as possible, they can classify, and of course there is another part of the discussion which we haven't done, that is, besides having the ability to observe data, gather data, and to do classification in the process of observation, they can also do conclusion. That is what we can discuss in the real program, in the actual program. Right, and I had also discussed two types of thinking here, and of course, we come back to lower order thinking. What is lower order thinking? Lower order thinking is the type of thinking that is based on the environment, the environment and the experience that one has. It can be a lot in children, a lot in parents, a lot in teachers, a lot in academicians, a lot in professionals. So, in fact, lots exist in different forms for different level of knowledge, but if lots also exist in politicians. Doesn't mean that we have professionals in politicians, we have lawyers or doctors as politicians. Doesn't mean that they can think at the higher order level. Many can't think at the hot level unless they learn how to think, because hot has to be taught. So how do you develop HOT? That's the best way of developing HOT is through education system. So we are waiting for our education system to be really working along the goal of achieving these higher order thinking students. And HOT is one of the main components of 21st century learning. 21st century learning is about problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication. That will be discussed in the actual program. What is meant by problem solving? We just touch on critical thinking, creative thinking. Then comes the problem solving, like the one I gave the questions on 2/5 of a journey is 600 kilometers, and find the whole journey. That is about problem solving. We will discuss further, right? Now, so this program is actually a program for parents and children. it is encouraged that parents will get their children to sit down beside and let them get exposed and try to explain to your children based on the suggested methodology or suggested way of solving problems, so that your children will have more opportunity to develop critical thinking and creative thinking. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope parents will take this opportunity to join the program, the actual programs, and there are a lot of things to discuss here. Will take about a few hours before parents will have a whole idea of how to guide their children at home in mathematics through higher order thinking. Thank you.